Hey everyone, Lara here. We wanted to start this episode out with a little bit of a trigger warning. We are going to be talking about cancer and cancer diagnoses, and if you're not feeling like you're in a good place for that topic, skip this one and we'll see you in another episode.
Hey there, welcome to Unboxing It, a podcast by Laura Wellman and me, Rowan Knox. Each week we tackle societal ideas and expectations that can stop us from leading full and authentic lives. We're so glad you're joining us. Let's get started. Welcome to Unboxing It. I'm Rowan.
And I'm Lara.
So normally we have a big chat before we record and we say things like, hey, how's your week been? What have you been up to? Anything new? We complain about things. We share news. And this time we chatted for about 5 minutes. And then I said, okay, let's record because I want to talk about what I'm going to talk about on this podcast because it is incredibly relevant. How my week has gone is very relevant to this topic. This topic is on embracing uncertainty. I don't know if I'm at the embracing stage, but I do want to talk about it.
It's a good topic. And part of it is wanting to embrace it, I think, is half the battle, right? It's knowing that you want to be okay with it as opposed to feeling like everything is terrible, everything's going to go wrong, I am going to never make it out of here. And that's like sort of the alternative to embracing it is being convinced you're going to be bowled over by it.
Exactly. So here's what's going on. I am scheduled to have top surgery, which is a mastectomy. It's a common procedure for trans mask people, trans men, and I'm scheduled for a week from this Friday. So about a week and a half from where we are right now. And my surgeon, because of my age, asked if I could get a mammogram first, just to make sure everything's good, pretty routine. So I said, sure, I'm going to do that. So I had a mammogram. And then a couple of days later, they called me and said, okay, well, we just need to clarify what we saw in the mammogram. So could you come back in and we'll do an ultrasound and just check everything out. And I was worried, but still, I was like, okay, breast cancer doesn't run in my family. Lots of people, when they're getting their first mammogram, and this was my first, get called back in for additional testing. And what they found was a thickening in one of my breasts, not a mass and not something that the radiologist was immediately deeply concerned about. In fact, she said to me, this can be a lot of things. And usually those things are nothing. They're benign. And sometimes we can rule them out on an ultrasound, and sometimes we need a little bit more detail. So I would like to do further testing. So there's two things that they'll do in this situation. Sometimes they'll inject dye, and cancer cells will light up in a way that benign cells or healthy cells will not. And that's what they normally do, to my understanding, when they're not super, super concerned, but they just need to double check. And that's what they were going to do for me. And then they realized, oh gosh, he's having surgery. So we have to speed this up. And at this particular hospital, I guess, or maybe this is just the common way it's done, I don't know, it's a lot faster to get you in for a rush biopsy. So now I'm doing a biopsy, and I'm getting that in 2 days from when we're recording this. And the results of that biopsy will determine whether or not I get surgery and spend the next few weeks recovering, or if I don't get surgery at the private clinic that I'm going to get it and instead have to get it at the hospital and have additional lymph nodes removed because I have cancer. So that has been very terrifying for me. I think it'd be scary for most people. I don't know a lot of people who would hear that news and go, yeah, it's fine, no big deal.
No.
I think most people would be like, ooh, biopsy, right? Like, does that invoke any fear for you if somebody says the word biopsy? Because for me, it does.
Yeah, I mean, it means that there's a concern that they're looking for something that would be of concern, right? Like maybe they're just ruling it out, but that means they think it's possible. So yeah, I think that's always nerve-wracking.
Exactly. So, I mean, that's where I'm at, right? Where I'm like, ooh, like that's scary. And on top of that, I have talked about this on the podcast before. I have illness anxiety. I have what some people would describe as hypochondria, but mine is very much about cancer for a variety of reasons that would take way too long for me to get into on this episode. But I have had a lot of people in my life get very sick, and many of them have passed away from cancer. And people that were younger than me and seemingly healthier than me. And so this has always been my big fear. And now here I am in this limbo state, staring down my biggest personal fear. And every time that I think, oh, this little test is going to rule it out. Okay, well, maybe this test will rule it out. Oh, maybe this test will rule it out. No, it just goes further and further down. And it is really hard to not know. There is this idea that I see, and I know for myself as an anxious person, the easy answer here is to say to myself, yeah, I feel terrible right now, but I just need to get the results of this test. Or, for other people, it might be, I just need to know I got that loan. Or I just need to know that I passed that exam. Or I just need to know that I got the job. And then I'll be okay. Right. I mean, a lot of us have told ourselves that, right? It's like, if I just get to this place of certainty, I'm going to be okay. I am trying the opposite right now. And I am trying to test myself and learn to be okay in the uncertainty. It is tough, but that's what I'm trying to do.
Yeah, it is tough. And I think a lot of things, but part of it is what does okay mean can also be part of it, right? Like some of how you can process things is to change what it is that you think the outcome should be, or change how you want to think about something. So some reframes can help you so that you're not set on, if this one outcome doesn't happen, I'm not going to be okay, right? If the only answer is one thing, when really there are a lot of things that could happen, and you're only focused on one, it can be really, really, really scary. And as somebody who just maybe a bit naturally, even when I get diagnoses of things, because it's not like I haven't had health issues, right? So to be clear, I have had health issues, right? I have had multiple surgeries in the last few years. I'm not like in great health, and therefore that's why I feel like this. But I think that I tend to be like, okay, I'll figure something out. It'll be okay. I'm grateful, I guess, that that's just my natural inclination. But I'm going to be okay can look like a lot of different things to me.
Yeah, that has been part of it for me. I've tried not to research too much because I think as somebody with health anxieties, research can be your enemy.
Hmm.
And I think for a lot of people, you plug anything into the Google machine and it can tell you you're dying right away in this moment. So I try not to do that. But I did look specifically for outcomes on this type of thing, knowing that the vast majority of biopsies turn up nothing and they're good news. And yet, there is also a very real possibility that something does turn up. And so then I thought to myself, okay, what is the story I'm telling myself, though, about what that might mean? Right. Because I think a lot of worry, a lot of being in that uncertainty and all of the anxiety and the fear that can come up has to do with the storytelling that we are bringing into it as humans, because that is what we do. We base virtually everything on things that we know from before, from past experience. And something like an illness, it is very easy to go to, well, if I get this, it means I'm gonna be really, really sick and my life is over and I might die and all of my dreams will be crushed. And I think like it's really easy to get there. But the fact is, that's not usually the case. And it's not necessarily helpful to tell yourself these stories over and over. I also don't think that it's helpful for me to go, oh no, everything's fine no matter what. But I think I need to be in this state of don't really tell yourself anything. Just understand that in this moment, right now, you don't know the outcome. So, are you going to let it sap all of your joy? Are you going to let it sap all of your energy? Are you going to let it make you miserable? Or are you going to live in this moment? And let me tell you, living in the moment when you're an anxious person, that's a challenge.
Yeah, I can imagine. So, what are you doing? What practices have you tried to do that are helping you through the unexpected?
So I've done a combination of things. One of the things is that I've done a lot of therapy. So cognitive behavioral therapy can really help with the stories that we tell ourselves. So I'm quicker these days to be able to catch the story as I experience it, as my mind creates it and go, is that a truth? Is that a fact? Or is that a story I'm telling myself? If it's a story I'm telling myself, I contrast it, I challenge it. So, a side quest of all of this is the day after I was told I was going to need a biopsy, I had to go see my family doctor. And one of the things I needed to go see him about was I have a couple of growths on my forehead. And as a rather pale person of a certain age, it's really good to get those growths checked out from time to time and just make sure they're nothing serious. I had been telling myself, because of all of the stress from everything else, oh, watch, I'm going to go in there. And he's going to look at those and go, ooh, oh, I'm a little worried about those ones. We should probably biopsy them. And I was like, I can't handle that. I can't handle one more thing. I'm so stressed and this is just so unfair and the timing sucks. And I was really upset about it. And I went in and he looked at everything and he said, yeah, everything there is benign. You're fine. And I said, even this one? And I pointed to one that was, sort of sticking out a little bit more. And he's like, yeah, I'll have a closer look. And he's like, hmm, hmm. And my heart is just pounding at this
Mhm.
point. And he says, that's a wart. You want me to freeze it
Oh,
off?
okay.
I was like, okay, well, first of all, you can get a wart on your forehead. I had no idea.
Mhm.
Secondly, yes, it's exactly what he did. So he treated it. So I walked out of there going, what's the lesson? What is the lesson here? Because the other thing that I bring into this, and this is just my personal belief system, is one of spirituality. I'm not of any particular faith. I do believe that there's something more than just this life that we live right now. And so, in that belief system, I do believe that we are here to experience things that we can only experience in this form. And it doesn't matter if you believe that or not. What I'm trying to say is that it's okay to pull from whatever it is that you believe in and utilize that too. That can be really comforting. So, for me, I believe that my soul, or whatever you want to call it, I don't really have words for a lot of this, is in my body, my physical body, and that I am here to experience challenges and joys and love and all kinds of things. But in this particular case, challenges that are going to help me grow. And so I really do think that having to live in this uncertainty and get comfortable with it, and dare I say, learn to embrace it, I'm still doing the learning part, is going to ultimately be good for me. It's going to help me build resilience. And if I can build resilience, then the next time something like this happens where it would normally just push me to spiral out of control, I won't do that because I will have the experience of having made it through and grown from the last one and learned from the last time.
Yeah. I think sometimes you'll hear people say things like, well, it was meant to be, right? The universe or God doesn't give people more than they can handle. They say things like that, making it like this was supposed to happen to you. And I think I don't love that. Right? Like
No,
I don't want
no.
to say like, you know what? You're getting to go through this just so you can grow and just so you can improve yourself. However, I think that The opportunity exists when these things happen to ask yourself again. I think the question you said before, is it true, is a huge one. Is that true? And what do I have control over? Because you don't have control over what the outcome of the biopsy is going to be. You don't have control over when they can see you. You don't have control over all kinds of things. But you do have control over what you're going to do with your time, how you're going to put yourself in a position that helps you feel empowered and not like a victim, right? You do have control on those things. And so I think that's something to remember because sometimes it feels like there's nothing I could do right now except wait and hope that my whole life isn't going to fall apart. Like that is one option. And that is something that I think a lot of people would experience. But there is also the option to think, what is going to make me feel better? For me, I definitely would do research carefully, right? I'm not going to go and just randomly Google and see, photos of things on Reddit and like whatever. But if I'm going to go and try and find experts and find out, what the best case scenarios are, find out what the best procedures are, like that's the kind of thing that I would do. I had my very first appointment with my surgeon for my endometriosis 6 years ago, maybe last week. And I say that because I saw in my Facebook memories a post about
Hmm.
it and how leading up to this appointment, I had typed out a 7-page document with everything that I thought might be pertinent to my story. Now, this is significant because that is not something that I do. Like, some people do that kind of thing. Some people are very prepared, some
Yeah,
people are
yeah.
very organized. I am not. Like, that is not a Lara thing at all to have done. But I was like, in this moment, I am going in. I need to make sure that I have all my information straight. I'm going to make sure that I know what I can tell them so that I can make the best case out of what's going on. That was how I felt empowered in that moment, right? So leading up to and being like, what are they going to say? What's going to happen? Everybody's told me I have no control over this and it's never going to work out better than everybody else has ever had it. Or I'm going to walk in and say, I have prepared, I have planned. Let's talk about this. That's how I dealt with that particular uncertainty of not knowing what they were going to say. Because at that time, everybody had told me it would be at least a year from that first appointment before I could get surgery. At a time where I did not have a single day without massive pain.
Wow.
And so you're like, I don't know what they're going to say. In fact, what I'm told they're going to say is suck it up for at least another year. And that can be so soul crushing to think that, I'm going into a situation where the chances are it's not going to go well. So I'm always on the lookout for what can I do that's going to help me feel strong and empowered in the conversations and the moments I'm going to have.
Wow. That's really powerful. I did do a bit of research, like I said, and I learned some positive things. I learned that when they want to do this dye test, which is what they wanted to do, in the particular situation where they don't suspect that it is cancer, they just want to be sure, which is my situation, 98% of the time, it comes back benign. Those are
Mhm.
really good odds. When they do a biopsy in this particular situation, 20 to 30% is cancer and the rest is not. And those, again, are not bad odds. And then I went further because my whole idea was, and I apologize to any cancer survivors out there. I know many cancer survivors, and I want you to know that I have watched people go through a diagnosis, go through treatments, and come out of that in really good shape, and live wonderful lives. Mental illness doesn't work that way. So in my mind, if I did get this diagnosis, it would mean that I wasn't around anymore. So I challenged that. And I looked into breast cancer statistics, especially things that would be caught early, because whatever this is very, very localized. So chances are, fingers crossed, if it is that, it is actually something that they caught very early. So I looked at that and it's like a 90 to 99% 5-year survival rate for this particular thing. And that is incredible, right? So I was able to start rewriting some of the stories still without knowing. Because again, I know nothing. I have no idea. The other thing that I tried to do is shift my perspective from being fearful and feeling like everything's on the line right now. Because the other thing to factor in is that I'm opening a business soon. And so my surgery, it's available if like that's the last week or two where I could do surgery, have the time to recover, and then launch this business where I have to be in all the time. Weird good news. It looks like our build is going to be delayed a little bit. They have to do some extra work in there. So because of that, even if I didn't get the surgery on time, like at the time I want it to be, I would still be able to get it next month. And I really shifted towards gratitude in that, thank goodness, there are all of these medical professionals that have my best interests at heart, who are doing their due diligence to make sure that I am healthy and strong and that they don't miss anything. Because I could get frustrated. You know, there were two medical professionals in that appointment where they were doing the ultrasound and the repeat mammogram. And one of them was like, I just see tissue. I don't see anything here. And the other one was like, I can't rule it out for sure. And she had the final say. And
Mhm.
she decided that we were going to do this. And, you know, I could be really upset, like, oh, you're throwing everything into chaos. Like, I had this whole plan. And now because you're not sure and it's probably nothing, you know, and my mind started to go there and I was like, wait, this person wants what is best for me. She doesn't want to miss anything. That is a really good doctor. Thank goodness for that doctor.
Yeah, she's not sending you for all this extra stuff just to make your life frustrating, right? It's like, it'd be fun is to just like throw some wrenches in people's lives. I think being cautious is a good thing. Understandably, it feels frustrating. It feels unfair. I think we said fair a few times. We're gonna have to link to the episode we did on fairness because I think
I need to
that
go
it
back
does.
and listen to that episode
Yeah.
on fairness. Yeah.
Yes, you should go back and listen to it. I think we have a lot of things that feel unfair, feel frustrating. But again, we don't have control over what the results are going to be. And whether you have the biopsy or not, the same thing is going on in your body, right? Whatever that might be, whether it's nothing or it is
Yeah.
something. It's good to be cautious. This is where I come back around to, am I doing research or do I just want to know the facts? And is that different? I think it's different if you're out there looking for the stories of how things haven't gone well, which certainly I think is something people would do just to be like, on the safe side, I better learn about all the possible things that could go wrong. But I also like to remind people, and I got caught in this trap with my own illness, is the people who are going to be the loudest online are the ones who had the worst experience. They're not the ones who had the best experience. Usually, the easiest, fastest, bestest experience, they're like, I'm not going to go online and rant about how terrible everything is. Like, it was pretty good considering what it was. And I think just like when you see hotel reviews, the people who are the angriest and the most frustrated are being the loudest. So if you go looking for that and that's what you see and that's what you focus on, it's not really true. It's not that these things didn't happen. It's just like if you think like, oh, 80% of the stories I see are really, really terrible. But then if you flip it and think only 15% of the people who had stories told them, and they were almost all the negative ones, that changes your truth and your facts.
Yeah, it's true that going online for that sort of thing is not the best move for most of us. It's really not good for people with any kind of health anxiety because what we're trying to do is reassurance seek. So we're just looking to put a band aid on a gushing wound, if you will. And the problem with that is we get that reassurance and then the fear creeps in again, and then we need more reassurance. And then we get it, and then the fear creeps in again, and we need more reassurance. So you can spend a great deal of time online trying to make yourself sure of something that, frankly, you just can't be sure of. There's no way to be sure until you get it checked out by a professional. And I think that encompasses the unhealthy way of dealing with uncertainty. I don't want to make this all about health because uncertainty can be about anything. And, in my case right now, it happens to be surrounding my health, but I could talk about opening this coffee shop and all of the various hurdles and how the idea that I had of how it was going to go is vastly different than how it has turned out. That doesn't mean that it's bad. It's a very different thing. There's no way I could have predicted all of the outcomes that have occurred so far. And we're not even open yet. So, I mean, the best is yet to come. I also want to say that when the hospital first called me to book my biopsy, which was the day after my last ultrasound, I put the phone down after and I sobbed like I have not cried in a really long time. And I let out so much fear. And I was just sharing with a loved one about how I was feeling and how scared I was and how angry I was and how unfair it was. And I then went up to my bedroom and I put my pajamas back on and I just sat in my feelings and I watched TV and I took care of myself. And it's really easy for me to sit here and go, yeah, I'm not doing a terrible job at this. Like, I'm actually doing better than I thought. And that is true. I am. But I'm also a human being. And I'm a human being with certain leanings towards fear. And so, yeah, when I'm in uncertainty, even though I've done a lot of work already, I'm still going to have my moments. And I think that it's okay for it not to be a linear path in getting comfortable with living in uncertainty because there are days, full days, where I am absolutely fine, morning till end, and I get a good night's sleep and I'm great. And then there are days like today where I woke up at 4:45 a.m. after going to sleep at almost midnight and definitely did not get enough sleep and then had to skip any work that I was going to do this morning so that I could go back to sleep because I was so full of anxiety today. And I've had to do a lot of extra work to keep myself centered. So it's all right if it waffles. And I think for me now, rather than try and push away the fear and go, yeah, no, no, go away. I'm not going to be afraid. Instead, I kind of invite it in now and I go, okay, have a seat. It's okay. Because that's just the scared part of myself. And I want to be compassionate towards it. Right. That's just all the things, all the pain, all the fear, all the everything that I have lived through having seen some scary things and lost some people I really loved and anything else that is contributing to that. And pushing it away and treating it badly isn't going to make it stop. But inviting it in and giving it love and practicing self compassion and letting it be a part of my day when it needs to be without it taking over my entire day, I consider that a win.
And I would love to hear from anybody who's listening if they have strategies that work when they're going through uncertainty, because I think my tendency is different than your tendency, right? So I don't tend to go to fear right away, but if I am going to do the thing that's not healthy, it's to just be like, it's not that bad. Everybody else has it worse than me anyway. I just need to buck up and live with it. Like, I will sort of gaslight myself out of thinking I have a right to be upset or to have feelings about it, which also puts me in a position of not feeling my feelings. And when I first heard this, which honestly was only in the last few years, I think, that you're supposed to feel feelings in your body. And I was like, what? Like, no, feelings are like spiraling thoughts in your head, but like, no, like feeling them in your body. And if you allow yourself to feel them, they pass through so much faster than if you try to bottle them up and not feel them. And I didn't like that. It's a thing that was being told to me. Like, I don't want to feel my feelings because it doesn't feel good to me. Like, I don't like it. I don't like crying. I don't like feeling them. But I also think learning to feel is important. And this is a bit of a tangent, but like, if you can't feel the bad stuff, you can't feel the good stuff. And so you want to learn to be okay with having feelings and learn to not dwell in them. So it's just like a little bit It's not too hot, it's not too cold, it's in the middle, like a Goldilocks kind of thing, like don't stew in them, but also feel them. And that's true for everybody. Like let yourself have the opportunity to feel your feelings.
I always think that feelings are a lot like having a toddler with you. Because a lot of our feelings, especially the ones that we might deem irrational, like say an irrational fear. And I don't think the fear that I'm going through is irrational, but I think the level of fear that I am personally experiencing for what is going on is irrational. And that's because of past traumas, many of them from when I was a child. So I like to picture that as a little kid and a younger version of me. And there was a time when that younger version of me could take over completely. Let's say, imagine that my life, I'm at a park right now, and this fearful, angry, toddler version of me is like right in front of me, screaming and crying and kicking and disrupting everything. I can't think, I can't do anything, I can't live my life. That's what it used to be like. And that's how it was the morning that I just let everything out and I just cried like crazy, which I think was a very healthy thing to do. But that's when I allowed that to happen. And when I embrace my feelings in moments of uncertainty now, it's more like, I see you're upset. I understand you're upset, but you're not going to take over this entire thing. So let's go sit on a bench. You can sit next to me and you can be in your feelings, and I will love you through them, and we're still going to get on with our day. So that's how I try to deal with anxiety, fear, guilt or shame, anger, anything that would normally in the past encompass me is now allowed to sit with me, but no longer allowed to take over.
Yeah, that's good. And I think all of us having our strategies to figure out what to do next. For me, some of the time it means talking about something with somebody I trust when I don't really want to talk about it. Because I don't want to talk about it, not because I'm not having the feelings, not because it wouldn't be helpful to talk about it. I am trying to pretend that there is no problem, which means shoving it down and letting it fester. And so there are times where sometimes it comes out like, I think we've talked about this before, right? Like the sort of like, thank you, even though you have a hard time accepting the compliment. I will say to somebody, like, I just need to say this. I don't even want to talk about it any further than having said this, but I know that it's a good exercise for me to tell somebody that I am worried about this insert thing. And that's at least my first step of not trying to just tamp everything down. So finding your strategies, knowing what it is. And I think remembering that figuring out what works for you when you're not in the moment of crisis is a better time to figure it out, right? Like if right now you're like, well, nothing is uncertain, like, okay. But if you take the time right now to think, what works when I am in a panic, then you have that much more easily to figure out when you are in a panic than like it's just there.
Absolutely. Being able to pull in some tools that I normally use, and I have brought up some of the therapy methods that I've used. I brought up spirituality, also meditation and mindfulness, really important to me, and exercise. But I've actually been practicing a more thoughtful type of exercise, a gentler exercise, knowing that I'm tired and stressed. I started Tai Chi for the first time in my life. I started doing Tai Chi, which is really beautiful and centering. And I don't know if I ever would have considered doing it if I wasn't in this particular state of mind. And that brings me back to gratitude, and it brings it back to, and I'm only going to use this for myself. Please do not anybody come at me in the comments. I'm choosing to see what's going on right now as a gift of sorts. And not that it isn't hard, not that I wish it wasn't happening, because I really do wish it wasn't happening. I do wish this was all a lot easier. But if it's going to happen, what can I excavate from that? And so I'm hoping that this entire thing helps me emerge from it a little stronger, a little wiser, and with some new capacity to deal with life and some new tools to deal with life that I didn't have before. Because what is the point of going through it if I don't get something out of it at the end? That's my stubbornness, but that's what I'm going to take.
But I think that's great. And the whole it's a gift thing It sucks if somebody else tells you that that's how you should take it or that it's a gift from some unknown force. But the way that you're positioning it and that I hear it is it's a gift to yourself, right? The gift to myself is to figure out how to get through this in a way that feels empowering and is going to help me in the long run. So it's not like whoever source gift universe is giving you this gift because like that's a shitty gift.
Yep. It's such a shitty
It
gift.
is such a shitty gift, but if you're doing it for yourself, it's a really great gift.
Yeah, and this is why I also will never use the term, God or whatever doesn't give you more than you can handle. I think that is the worst thing imaginable to say to somebody. I have a friend who lost a child, and people said that to her. I'm like, how dare you? How dare you, someone who has never been through that unimaginable grief, try to tell somebody else that they can handle this and that God's just testing you. It's nah, no, no, no. But if I want to say that about myself, if I choose to look at that for me, that's different. That's a different thing entirely. So I appreciate that we took on this topic today. I know I texted you sort of out of the blue with a little bit of this news a few days ago and said, I think this is the topic that I want to tackle, but it's because I wanted to tackle it raw
Mhm.
and in the moment. And then maybe we can come back to it once things are a little more settled and I know where I stand and maybe what I learned. I really believe that no matter what happens, this time of uncertainty is going to teach me something profound. This is one of those times where I am literally being forced to face my biggest fear. And if that doesn't change someone, I don't know what does.
Mhm. And this podcast will not come out until you know what's coming next, at least in part. And so perhaps we can even add in a little update.
Yeah, I would like that too. Thank you so much for joining us today. It has been a pleasure, might be a strong word today, but I am very grateful for the opportunity.
It's been a good conversation.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Hey, Rowan here. Just wanted to give an update on what I talked about this episode. It's been a couple weeks since we recorded it, and I am thrilled to tell you that my biopsy results came back clear. I am cancer free, and my surgery was postponed by a month. You know what? I'll take it. Thank you for listening to Unboxing It. We're so glad you did. If you like what you heard and you want to help us keep making episodes, please leave us a rating wherever you heard this one. You can also subscribe to the Unboxing It Substack to get access to all of the latest news and some special bonus content. And hey, truly, don't forget to find some moments of joy today. You deserve them. Take care out there, and we'll see you next time.